So we did the all-NBA teams. Let's have some fun and do the all-defensive teams today. We'll start with the first team, all-defensive. Here are our picks. We agree on a good majority of them. All of us have Iguodala as one of our forwards. We have Ibaka, 3 of you do, as your second forward. I got Paul George there. Then it was the split. 2 of us going Hibbert, Trey and Tass going Hibbert for the center, Lee and I going Noah. And at the guard positions, well, it gets a little messy here because some of you, Tass and Lee, putting Paul George as a guard.
He's a guard now?
You're allowed to.
I don't know why you're allowed to.
On the defensive teams, you can
It's
score
2
my guy
guards,
whenever you
2
want.
forwards, and a center.
Doesn't matter. He plays perimeter, guys.
Patrick Beverley, I got Butler, and then a lot of us have Chris Paul, and again, Butler makes an appearance. No, it should be 2 guards, 2 forwards, and 1 center. Now, why did you do that, though? Because when you look at the guards,
yes,
there's a shortage of guards.
I'm picking the 5 best defensive players. And I wanted Beverley on my list as well, because if you're picking a point guard to stop another point guard, you probably pick Patrick Beverley. But you got to draw the line somewhere. The guy played 56 games. I don't know where that line is, but I drew it.
Yeah, but he's also the best on-ball defender in the game, which counts for something. And I think if there was a single player in the NBA you would not want to guard you, he's probably the guy. Because think about how annoying he is. He's always in your face. He's always needling you, you know, with his little moves.
Okay, stop that. Lots of guards, though, candidates, defensive candidates at least missed a big chunk of time.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
You know, Rondo. Bledsoe, Eric Bledsoe missing a big chunk.
Chris Paul missed 20 games.
Chris Paul even, that's right. Drew Holiday, and a lot of guys that you could throw in there. But yeah, so that's the reason you went with Beverley. Was there a reason, Lee, that you ended up going with Noah over Hibbert? Because I know that's going to come into play here.
It was simple for me. He was Defensive Player of the Year. He finished 4th in MVP voting. I know that that's not
Did they get it
all
right?
about his
Did
offense.
they get it right?
For me, Joakim Noah was by far the best defensive player this season. He was fantastic. I've spoken a lot about how it's not just about the stats when it comes to defense. It's about his positioning, his body, his ability to switch on picks and screens and things like that. Just his presence back there for Chicago, I thought, was one of their main reasons why they were so successful this year until they fell apart in the playoffs. But Joakim Noah, for me, was the easiest choice.
That's why I got Jimmy Butler on my team. I thought, you know, sort of like Patrick Beverley, a guy who can just focus on the defensive end, you know, playing 39 minutes a game on your best perimeter player quite often and shutting him down.
Yeah.
I thought he had a spectacular season.
Yeah.
And I like putting guys on this team that basically have to focus on defense and don't have to focus on offense, because in my mind I automatically think, well, they're a better defensive player because they don't have to play offense. and I think that's partially true. I mean, they just don't have to do as much.
Let's look at the second team, and we got a whole lot of picks in here. This is our all-defensive second team. A lot of us going with Ricky Rubio as one of our guards. Lee has Lowry. I have him as my second one. Jimmy Butler there. Some of us had him on the first team. Makes an appearance here. Tass putting Chris Paul on the second team. Then Kawhi Leonard, a forward for most of us. Paul George sneaking in on Trey's team. And then that second forward, we've got Tim Duncan. Tass goes with. Lee goes with LeBron James. Trey goes with Anthony Davis. This is where I have Ibaka slotted. And then no surprise, the center on our second team's the opposite of who you didn't have on your first team, be it Noah or Hibbert. Let's start with LeBron James, because this is something that's come up before where he's talked about even, hey, I want some accolades here. I'm a great defensive player. I should win all defensive player of the year.
He wants a little Jordan
At least be on these teams.
And he's right. He's a fantastic defensive player.
I don't think he was right this year, though.
Well, maybe this year compared to previous years, maybe not. But I still think that his presence defensively and his ability to get his team from defense into offense shouldn't ever be underestimated. I think we sometimes take it for granted just how much of an impact he has. And I just think he's a fantastic all-round defender, even if the stats don't necessarily say he gets lots of blocks and steals. We always see those fantastic highlight reel blocks. He doesn't actually get many blocks. But again, it's that intimidation factor he has and his ability to switch and take the bigger player or the smaller player, whoever it needs to be shut down.
It's kind of like Deion Sanders, right? He was the greatest cornerback in the world for a long time, and then his interceptions started tailing off because nobody ever threw at him. And I think that's what you're trying to get at, is that he just doesn't have a lot of people that want to challenge him because nobody wants to end up on the wrong end.
Part of
it, exactly right.
Yeah, I don't care about the numbers with him. I know he has a huge impact, but part of it I don't care about is that, or I don't care for voting for him, is because he doesn't necessarily take the other team's best player for 3 quarters at a time.
Yeah.
And then in the fourth quarter, he'll jump on him because he's
Because that's the most important time, and he has to shut them down.
Yeah, but he doesn't do it for the other 3 quarters.
But
so,
that shouldn't take. Why should that be marked against him for that?
Well,
his
because
role is.
Other defensive players have big responsibilities on that end of the floor. We're not voting for most potential on the defensive end. We're voting for the guys who have had the most impact. And listen, he's spectacular, but he's got Shane Battier to help him out. He's got other perimeter players that help him out. He's spectacular.
Hold on, you say that, but you picked a guy on your team, and Tim Duncan didn't even play 30 minutes per game.
Yeah.
So what's the reason?
That's hard. It's a tough one. I love Timmy. I love you, Timothy. You're on my team. I always have a bias towards backline players, so if I can sneak a guy in the forward spot that plays the backline, I mean, we could have put him in the center spot. He played 54% of his minutes at the center spot.
I wouldn't be as angry with that as the Paul George as a guard, though. I'm still angry about that.
What's
90% of his minutes, according to Basketball Reference, at the small forward position. In the first 2 years, he played more shooting guard.
Those 90% of his minutes are often. We're talking about the offensive end.
Yeah.
He plays wing defenders or wing offensive players.
So that's where you're fine with it.
Yeah, sure.
You don't care about the All-Star ballot that he's a forward.
Yeah, I said he was the 3rd best guard in the league earlier in the season. You guys are like, no, man, he plays small forward. Lance Stevenson is their shooting guard. Where were you at then, Tassie?
I think it's because there's so much better
because he plays
forwards.
besides George Hill and Lance Stevenson. On my team, he's playing besides Jimmy Butler on the first team.
All right, let's look at a few of the snubs that we had, because you got to get these names out here or everyone gets upset with you. A couple of our snubs, and I know we're missing 10 other ones.
These are our picks.
Eric Bledsoe, he would likely be on a lot of our teams, I think, had he played the entire season.
100%. We show you his highlights over and over again.
Yeah, the guy is a beast on the defensive end. Tony Allen's name is always going to come up here. 2 Warriors players. I mean, we had Iggy, most of us on our first team there, but Draymond Green and Andrew Bogut. Key reasons why the Warriors were, and I always forget this, that the Warriors are one of the best defensive teams in the league. You had DeAndre Jordan and so on and so forth there. Who am I forgetting there?
Marc Gasol.
Marc Gasol,
yeah,
thank you. PJ Tucker you could throw on there. Lots of guys.
It was tough. It was really tough.
I think this is a very difficult, these 2 teams, very difficult to pick in general. It's like, how deep do you try to get into the numbers of what their opponents are shooting around them when they're on them and all that? You get into the synergy numbers and stuff like that. Or do you just sort of go, you watch the games and sort of go with your gut and like the impact that guy has? You should try and find a balance.
I think we should move on because our producer, Matt Austin, says defense is boring.
Oh, well, let us know, guys. You're all defensive teams. Hashtag the starters. Have a go at it. Matt Austin won't read them because he couldn't care less.